Who is up for a promotion, folks? Who is up for moving it up in the world? Please welcome our first speaker today, Michelle Burke.
Thank you. All right. Can you hear me?
Oh, loud and clear, girl.
Awesome.
Should we get this show on the road?
Yes, we should. So now I'm going to share my screen. Let's make sure this function works.
So while Michelle is doing that, the reason I am still visible is I'm going to now step into the role of glamorous assistant.
I love it.
It's a role I've always wanted to have, you know. I never got to be part of a magic show, so yeah, I don't know how much glamour I'm bringing today, but I'm going to give it my best shot. So this particular presentation, Michelle's style, requires an assistant. That's all I'm going to say.
Yeah,
that is all I'm saying.
I know, this is awesome. I love doing this kind of stuff. Because so this is interactive. We want participation. So Loveda is helping me with that. So that's good. What are we going to talk about today? We're talking about leadership. We're talking about influence. We're talking about how to define your style. What do your values look like? What does social power mean? What's influence? Why do we care? Why does this matter? So this is the next thing I want to do. Why is leadership important to you? Why do you care? Go ahead and put that in the chat.
That one wasn't a rhetorical question, was it?
Oh, well, you can put it in the chat too. You can put it in the chat. Go ahead.
Participation, right? What does leadership mean?
Yeah. What does it mean to you? Why is leadership important to you? Why does it matter? What is, or if you don't, I actually chatted with a gal yesterday that doesn't like the term leadership. I was interesting. She doesn't like the term leadership. So, okay, so Gracie says we need guidance. What else? What does influence mean to you? Why is influencing people important? What do you all think? Shows confidence.
It shows competence and confidence is what it's what Mel says. Oh, Debbie says empowerment, energy, and confidence.
Nice.
Jacqueline says it gives you the power to change. Jan says results. Yeah. Alex says influence equals access to be of service to others.
Oh, I love that. That's awesome. Yes, be of service. Servant leadership. That was the other thing. I had someone mention servant leadership. They didn't like that term because they didn't want someone to think that they were being a servant to someone. I'm like, interesting, right? That's really interesting. But again, language, somebody doesn't like the term leadership. So there's leadership, there's influence. What does it mean to you? These are all really good things. Thank you all for sharing your information there. So here's a quote from Murray Hopper. You manage things, you lead people. What does that mean to all of you?
So Sharon says empowerment and legacy.
Nice. What does legacy mean to you, Sharon? What does that mean to you? I'm curious. I've been asking that legacy question a lot these days, and you get the deer in the headlights, or people are like, I don't know what that means. That's a big word. And then there's different versions of legacy. But yeah, anybody else has anybody been managed like a thing?
Oh, how long you got?
Right? For sure. Okay, we're going to keep moving. So we have a poll question, and if we can do this via the cool tool if we want, or we can do this old school. Cool tool or old school? Which is it? Which is it going to be? I don't know if it pops up.
Let's go with A, B, C, or D.
Okay. All right. So let's go ahead and do the poll. We'll do the poll question, old school. What is the mark of a true leader? A, the position held. B, the title held. C, how many people need to be led? Or D, how many people are willing to actually follow them? What is your answer? Go ahead and put that in the chat.
We're getting a lot of D's.
Yes, good.
Debbie says D. Liz says D. Natasha says D.
Nice, nice.
Do we have any changes on D? Do we have any A's or B's?
Any A, B's, C's? How many people are willing to follow them? Yeah, I mean, I think that because there's a lot of conversation about the difference between being a manager, being a leader. I mean, you can manage people, which is by position. You might have a title, but that doesn't make you a leader. Doesn't mean that people are going to follow where you want to go or actually believe whatever it is you're saying or asking them, or whatever it is you're asking them to do. Excellent.
So just as you're moving on to that, ladies and gentlemen, we have 2 buttons. So you've got an event and you've got the stage. And at the moment, I'm flicking between both. So if you can go into the stage chat, that'll make it a little bit easier to make sure we don't miss anybody's amazing comments. But you guys are like totally ace in terms, folks are totally acing it in terms of participation. Like you get A stars for participation. Awesome.
So I want to give you an example. I like stories. And one of the stories I want to give you is a guy and a gal working together. So the gal, her name is Kay, and Kay is the manager. She's the leader. And Jay is the subordinate. So he's the employee. He's working on Kay's team. Now, Kay has so Jay is a veteran. He's been around the block for 20 years, he's done this type of work for a long time. And Kay has asked Jay to do something specific. She's asked him to write documentation. She's shown him what she wants him to do. And so he runs off and he starts doing this documentation. Well, he comes back, gives it back to Kay. Kay's like, nope, it's not what I wanted. Don't like it. Here's what I want you to do, and here's how I want you to do it. Takes it back, goes back, redoes it, tries to do it the way she wants him to do it, comes back, shows it to her. He says, nope, don't like it. She says, nope, I don't like it. I told you this is what I want you to do, and this is how I want you to do it. Do it how I asked you to do it. So this went on back and forth, probably 3 or 4 rounds. Now imagine both of them are getting frustrated at this point, right? They're like, why aren't you doing what I'm supposed to? I told you how to do it. Why can't you just let me do it? What's the problem here? And so, ultimately there's a mix match here. And we're going to talk about why that is. I mean, and I'm going to give you a little bit of hint. So Kay was telling Jay what to do and how to do it. He's a senior resource. He's been doing this time and time again. And there was a bit of micromanagement that was taking place in this, right? So she was managing what he was supposed to do and how he's supposed to do it. But he was getting frustrated. He's like, I tried to do it. And then finally, he's like, you know what? Maybe you should just do it. Do it the way you want it done, since I can't hit the mark. And oddly enough, Jay actually wound up leaving 4 months into that job. He's like, I can't stand this. This isn't working. I got to go. So this really happens, when we manage versus lead, it makes a difference as to how we're supposed to do this. Okay, so we're going to keep moving. I want to talk about the different types of social power. How many are familiar with social power? Just throw that in the chat. Yes, no, maybe so. I don't know. I don't have a clue what you're talking about, or I know all about this. What do you think? And if you're multitasking, I wish I could see, right?
Busted. Jan did make a comment. She says, when people tell you both what and how you remove their need to think.
Ooh, thank you, Jan. Yeah, it's interesting because hopefully we want critical thinkers on our teams. Hopefully we want people that are going to think for themselves and give us ideas. Conflict isn't necessarily bad because conflict shows passion. It can get ugly, However, we want people to have diversity in thinking as well. We want diversity in people, but we want diversity in thinking. So
Sharon knows what social power is, but
okay.
we've got a few question marks. Bruce and Mel are just question marking us. So I'm presuming that
means,
go through it. What is this? Tell us.
What is it? What is it? All right, let's go. When I say coercive, what comes to mind? I mean, there's a hint there. There's a frowny face. So what comes to mind when I use the term coercive? What do you think that means as it relates to social power?
Well, I'm going to step in and take a little guess. Like, it reminds me of erosion. Like, you put something like an acid on a metal and it would kind of erode. Debbie says bullying.
That can take that form. Yep, it can. It's fear. There could be fear. Oh, that's right. Yeah, somebody said fear. Exactly. So think about, here's an example. And so this is not always necessarily bad. If you have a little kid that is getting ready to touch the hot stove, you're going to use an element of fear to get them to remove their hand, right? That's okay, right? Forcing, yeah, that's another one. That's good. So there are ways that this is positive, but from a leadership perspective, you don't always want to force or use fear in order to lead people. But there are people that do it. It's been done to us. We know when it happens. What does legitimate mean? What does that mean to all of you? What are your thoughts?
Is this somebody who's like a little bit more open? Wanting to be liked all the time, maybe?
Legitimate means positional power. So those managers or leaders that actually have the title. Yeah, positional power. Excellent. Yeah. So that means I am the director, or I am the team lead, or I am the project manager, I am the VP, or whatever. I am the boss in some way. Right now, there are people that have positional power that don't necessarily have the influence of the team, right? Because you can be in a position of power and not influence or lead your team. Interesting, right?
Liz says authentic and true.
Yeah, okay, good. We've got...
And Sharon says positional power is more lead role.
Positional power is generally in title, and you have been knighted that role. That's generally what that's the social power that comes to play there.
Bruce says, like it or not.
Like it or not. Well, yeah. Sometimes people are put in a positional power that they don't even want to be in a position of power, for sure. What about expert power? What does that look like?
I'm guessing the clue's in the title.
Expert. So it's subject matter expert. So I mentioned Jay earlier. Jay's been doing his work for 20 years. He's deep in his expertise. That's what that means. Then we have reward. That's a piggy bank. So so this is not just money. What else? How else could you reward your people? Your team? How else could you reward them?
So what subject matter experts, SMEs, Bruce says experience.
Yep, that's true.
So if it's not, sometimes it's just acknowledgement, really, isn't it? Just
exactly.
I think we can overcomplicate these things sometimes.
That's exactly right. Yeah. And it's like, thank you. Kudos. I appreciate you. Who doesn't want that? Sometimes that's more important than the money. Not always, but sometimes. And then the last one is referent power. So referent power is the ability to influence other people. And so that someone mentioned authenticity, being true to oneself. That's where good leadership comes in. Yes, by all means. And so the reason that this is highlighted, this square is around expert, reward, and referent, is that part of your job as a leader is to define how you're using these with people. Are you providing kudos? Are you saying thank you? Are you acting as an expert in your field, in your area of study? right? Are you influencing others in that space? It's not to say you can't use the other two. You can use your position of power. And sometimes you might have to use fear if there is something urgent or there's something that they really need to pay attention to, but that's not always the case. Okay, we've got another poll question. What can help manage expectations when it comes to trust? A, promising frequently to look trustworthy. B, never making a promise in order not to disappoint anyone. C, over-promising and under-delivering. Or D, under-promising and over-delivering.
Ooh.
What are your thoughts?
A, B, C, or D?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so far we've got one vote for D. You see, oh no, they're all going D's. Yeah. It's gone D nuts.
Okay. Yeah, D. Yeah, that's right. It's under promising and over delivering. That's exactly what it is. Doing number C is C is not what you want. And I started the D party. I love it. That's fantastic. Promising frequently to look trustworthy. That's interesting. I actually know people that do that, which is, I don't know. I don't personally subscribe to that, but I mean, that might work for some people. Okay, so leadership is the art of getting someone else to do something you want done because he wants to do it. What are your thoughts on that?
Let's see. I'm waiting for them to come in. We have got a comment on the last slide from Jan. She says, also trust people. Easiest to manage expectations when they are set and communicated.
Exactly. And what's interesting about that is trust is earned. It's earned. One of the things that I share with people, so leaders, if you walk away with nothing else from this conversation, if you hear me say nothing else, listen to this. So as a leader, if you want to find out what's going on with your team, ask these three questions, and individually. So Jan, to trust people, easiest way to manage expectations where they are set and communicated. In order to gain trust, in order to earn trust, you can ask these three questions. One, what should I start doing? As a leader, as a manager, what should I start doing for you? Right? What should I start doing? Number two, what should I stop doing? Is there a pet peeve that is driving you nuts? Tell me. Or I'm guilty on overusing email. So that, and then at some point that can be a problem. So some people have said, stop sending so much email, right? That's another one. What should I continue doing? Right? Continue. So what should I start doing? What should I stop doing? And what should I continue doing?
Great questions. Debbie says, my partner says that when someone is a good leader, people will run through walls for them.
I love that.
And Bruce says Eisenhower was a general before he was president.
Nice. We've got Debbie saying, my partner says that when someone is a good leader, people will run. Oh, you already said that. I'm sorry about that. You said it. I'm repeating it because it's doubly good. How's that? All right. So here's a fun story. Shopping, values and action. So one of the things I started with was your values help set the style for you as a leader. Do you know what they are? Have you communicated them to your team? What do they look like? So, all right. So Gracie and I'm going to use Gracie. It's easy to pick on her, right? So Gracie and I go into a store and she pulls off this shopping rack, she pulls a blue dress off the rack. And we go back to the dressing room. She puts on the blue dress and she comes out, she goes, Michelle, what do you think of the blue dress? Now, my value. So I have the courage to tell the truth. That is one of my values. And I try to make it fun, right? So I'm not hurting somebody's feelings. So I say, abort, danger, Will Robinson, get out of that dress. I do not like it whatsoever. There was a pink dress on the rack that I'm going to grab. Let's get you in that and see how that looks, right? Because I have the courage to tell the truth and I try to make it funny, okay? That's values in action. Now, Gracie goes in the same store with my sister Katie, who would never do what I did. Never, 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 right? So she's kind and she's creative. So she doesn't want to tell Gracie that she doesn't look good in the dress, even though Gracie asked. So they go, same thing happens. Gracie grabs the blue dress. She goes back into the dressing room. She tries it on. She comes out and she says, Katie, how do I look in this dress? And Katie goes, oh, Gracie, I saw this pink dress at the front of the store. Let me go grab that, take that off. I'll bring it and you put that on. We'll see how that looks. Same outcome. We both got her out of the dress, right? Both got her out of the dress. We showed up with different values in our own way to get what we needed done. So that's how values play a role in how you lead and influence people. It's really, really important, right? All right, and right, Gracie's right. It's both are effective. Now, let's see. Do we have a volunteer where we can play the values game today? And Loretta and I are going to play it if we don't have a volunteer. So is that, and Gracie, you tell me if we can do this live or not. Okay, Debbie said she'll play. All right. Okay, so here we go. All right, Debbie, I want you to think of three people that we're gonna make believe land. You're either starting a project, you're starting a business, or you're starting a new job. I put some type of new initiative that you need a team around you. I want you to think of three people that you want on that project, in that business, in that new job, right? Think of those three people. Who comes to mind? So go ahead and type in the chat, Debbie. Who are those three people? Just, you can name them, however you want to name them, and just give us their names. And then we also want you to share what are the traits or characteristics that you want them by your side. What is it about those three people that you want them in your team or in your business or in that new job? Go ahead and share with us what their values are.
So it's the name of the person and then the why, the values piece. So both Correct. Of them are coming in at the same time.
Yes, exactly. Yes.
I am loving this.
Yeah.
You've got me thinking.
That's all right. Names are made up. That's totally fine. And you can share too, Anita. You can share too. If you have some.
Do you know what it is though, Michelle?
Yeah, you can.
As you're saying this, I'm thinking, I don't know I've ever picked a team like this.
Oh.
I think, yeah, it's got me thinking. I've thought of people and I've thought of their values, but not necessarily in a kind of constructive, well thought through way. It's just so happened it's like I like, it's almost instinctive. I like this about XYZ person,
nice.
But I haven't necessarily thought about. I'm not sure where you're going with this. I'm guessing in my head, right? I'm not going to jump ahead,
but that's fine.
But it hasn't been something, what I'm aware of is it's not been something where I've sat down and gone, why this person? I've not necessarily put that up before. So that is quite interesting for me. So Debbie says, Julie, because they're organized, great at tech, shares how she does things and is trustworthy. Gracie's playing as well, by the way. So Gracie says Jerry because he's honest, Marie, because she's loyal, and Sue because she's reliable. Debbie's second person is someone who's visionary. Mike sees the big picture.
Nice.
So that would be Mike because he's visionary. So we've got somebody who's organized, great at tech and trustworthy, and we've got a visionary.
Perfect. Perfect. So while Debbie's thinking
3.
about her 3, right? While we're waiting on number 3, here's how this materializes and why it's important. So the reason that we're purposeful and thoughtful about this is these are the things that we value, right? And or we might be missing, right? So I have a gal on my team who is amazingly empathetic, right? I try to keep it from getting me in trouble, meaning I'm okay at it. I was used to be really bad at empathy and compassion. Now I'm probably a C player, sometimes B. I want to get right to the point. I want to tell them the truth, and then I want to move on. But she's like in the feeling. She's like, how do you feel? How can I help you? You know, it's just amazing. And to work together, it's magic. It's magic. So I value that skill because we need it on our team. And it's not it's not in my strengths, right? And so I value it. And so that would be one avenue. Or the other avenue is it's so important to you that if you don't have that value, it's going to drive you nuts, or you're not going to get where you're going to go, and you're going to have a problem. So I think we have some more. I'll let you go.
Yeah. Sherry's third one, Debbie's third one is Sherry, a financial wizard, trustworthy, and again, helpful, truthful, and loyal. Loyal and trustworthy seem to be very, very important. Yeah. And then she says Gracie's got bullet points. Bullet pointed her quickly.
Yes. No, that's great. Thank you so much for playing, Debbie. I really appreciate that. And so I would encourage each of you to do this exercise. I would encourage each of you to create your value sheet. And if you want to connect with me, by all means, I have an assessment that I can share with you, and you can use that assessment as your guide. That really helps us set our leadership style and understand why we do what we do, why we gravitate towards the people that we gravitate towards, and how are we picking our teams, and can we recognize when we need those particular players on our team. So then we've got this particular quote. I suppose leadership at one time meant muscles, but today it means getting along with people. So my question to you is, what does Gandhi mean when he says muscles? What does that mean? What are your thoughts?
Sorry, I'm just reading Debbie's post whilst people are typing. She says, I should have come up with wilder names.
That's funny. Oh, that's fantastic.
The thoughts we have after the fact.
Exactly. So this comes back to, I think the muscles part of this comes back to the coercion, or just do what I tell you to do. Yeah.
Gracie says, to me, muscles are not necessary, the body muscles, but the mental muscles.
That's a good take on this. That's a really good, because I said so. Yep. That's right. Yeah, and that doesn't work a lot.
Emotional muscles, Gracie says.
Gracie and I have been talking a lot about emotional and mental resilience too. And that's also something, that's a whole nother topic. But as leaders, we can help our team with emotional and mental resilience if we help and we show up the way we're meant to show up. Okay, we have another poll. As a leader, when do you get credit? A, all the time. B, only when your plan ultimately succeeds. C, whenever your followers succeed. D, whenever you save the company time and money.
A, B, C, or D? Gracie says A. On the previous, Jan says C and D. We're getting some differences on the D we've had up until now.
I like it.
There's a few different options coming through.
Like it.
Any advances? Does anybody want to jump in and say B?
Yeah, right.
I think it's not featured yet.
Depends on who's
Debbie says it depends on who's giving the credit. David says they should all get credit. We've got Natasha says D, Jacqueline says B, Gracie says B, C, and D. Nobody's, have we got any Bs? Oh yeah, Gracie said B, B, C, and D. Sharon also says B, C, and D. Quite a mix this time.
Right, there is a lot.
Yeah,
of
Debbie says, I believe it should be A. Ooh, Bruce has come in now. Remember what, I'm loving this. I feel like I'm a commentator of some description.
It's great, it's fun, isn't it?
Remember when Gandhi was up against government, he said, just a messenger of love and compassion, and it shows through beyond muscle. And he's gone for C.
Yeah, it actually is C. I mean, it can be, there are situations where it could be D. It could sometimes be B, but as a general rule, it's C. Whenever your followers succeed, that's when the leader should get the credit. And the team, ultimately, the team gets the credit.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Now, I think some of you have probably seen this, but this is leadership styles. And so I want to ratchet back to J and K, right? So if we remember J and K, right? So we've got a few different ways that you can situationally work with your team, right? And so one is to tell them what to do. Another, and so giving instructions. Another one is selling it. So maybe somebody's not on board. Telling it could be if someone is new to their role, they're new to their job, maybe they've just gotten this job or just gotten to the company and they're like, I don't know how to follow the process. I'm not sure. I'm a little nervous. They're not confident. It may be appropriate to tell them what to do and how to do it. That makes sense, right? Then you've got selling. Maybe someone knows what they're doing and they're confident, they're willing, but they're like, I'm not on board. I don't agree. I don't think you're right. So you might have to sell them on what you're wanting them to do. Or maybe there's someone that needs the participating style, which maybe they are not as confident in what they're doing. They're capable. Maybe they're capable. I've seen less unwilling, but mostly it's lack of confidence, and they need to collaborate together with you on the outcome, or delegate. You know, they're willing, they're confident, they're able, they know what they're doing, they're an expert in the field. Then you can just give it to them and let them run. So this model's been around for a long time. It is a pretty old one, but the point is, it's a way to influence behavior and use different styles to determine how to get the work done based on what that particular individual needs. So with J and K, so if I go back to the how and the what, which style would have been better to use with J? So if we go back, which style would have been better to use with J based on the situation that I explained? What are your thoughts?
Bruce says, telling you must, you will. I'm just wondering, is that is that you throwing your hat in the ring, the telling, or was that a comment from earlier? Let's see what else comes in.
And you know what? It's interesting about that telling too, is that telling can be a powder keg, in that there are individuals that if you use that style all the time with someone, they feel like they're beaten over the head with it, and then they're not necessarily using their own critical thinking skills. So this can be a bit dangerous. This can certainly be a bit dangerous.
That's interesting, because I think sometimes we think it's efficient, right? It's really quick. We just tell you what to do, and especially if somebody's new or whatever, that would be the way forward. But it's interesting that you give that shadow side to it, shall we say, the unintended consequences of overusing a specific approach.
Exactly. So really, Bruce is saying, telling style, no input, no opinion. Yeah, that's potentially true. I think I've personally used this when somebody's like a deer in the headlights. I don't know. I have no clue what you're wanting me to do.
Yeah. Jan says delegating or selling would be the style.
Nice, Jan. I think actually a combination of that is probably good. And that's a good point, Jan. You can use a combination of styles to influence behavior. Yeah,
Sharon says leaning towards participating and selling styles to get to understanding and buy-in.
Right. And so here's another challenge to all of you as leaders. Be purposeful with your leadership style and how you're working with other people. Don't use a one size fits all. Don't delegate all the time. Don't tell all the time. Don't sell all the time. Don't participate all the time, right? Use a combination of these, use a hybrid, figure out what that individual needs, how they want to receive the information, and then lead them in that way. So this is a good point so I don't know if you're familiar with the golden rule and the platinum rule. Okay, the golden rule, a lot of people know what the golden rule is, which is treat others the way you wish to be treated. Well, that's easy. I know how I want to be treated, so I'm going to just treat you the way I want to be treated. But guess what? That's not always great, because you may not like that. So that's when the platinum rule comes in. The platinum rule is treat others the way they wish to be treated. Oh, that's more difficult, right? That requires us to listen. That requires us to see how they act. That requires us to pay attention to their behavior and ask questions. And if we get it wrong, say, oh, I'm sorry. I'm sorry. I did that. I will do better next time. This is how I will make adjustments. That is when you start to really influence behavior, because you're paying attention and you're treating them the way they wish to be treated. Same thing with these leadership styles. You're treating them the way they want to be treated in the moment to help them get the work done. And then you're both succeeding.
Dr. Joy says, great point of asking how would they like to receive the information. Love that. I think, does this come back to the 3 questions you said earlier on?
It does. It really does. You are listening. Good job. You get a gold star.
I have listening ears on.
And a cookie. Yeah, I love it. And a glass of wine. I'll leave it. You can even have a cookie and a glass of wine.
Winning.
Oh, that's right. Okay, so we do have, I would say a combination. You could use delegating with Jay. You could potentially use delegating and selling, but that's where I would lean.
Oh, right, so I have another copy. Julie says, I think you must be mindful of generation. Millennials and Gen X think very differently.
Yes, it's true. All of us do. And we have a tendency to want to put people in a bucket, right? Or put them in a particular box. Maybe they don't belong in that box. I can't tell you how many people say they're a millennial. I'm like, that is just nails on a chalkboard for me, because that's like somebody saying they're an old timer. Nobody likes that either, right? So nobody wants to be in that box. I don't want to be in the old timer box, right? Of course, I was told I was a pioneer for leading the charge on remote working. I'm like, do I get a covered wagon with that? Oh my gosh. Okay, so here we go. Poll question. What does model the way mean? A, if you capture the imagination, you will inspire creative thought and increase loyalty. That's A. B, you must lead by example. C, truly empower people to act on their own within their level of authority. D, a positive attitude is infectious. What's your thought? This is a tricky one.
Or D.
This is a tricky one.
Is this going to be one of those ones, like, I'm kind of like, are you going to trip us up at some point? Are some of them like really straightforward, and like one of them, there's a tripwire in here.
Right. So people are probably afraid, like, oh, I don't know what to say. So the leading it by example is
we've got a few. Hold on. We've got
okay, go ahead.
B. Julie says A. Debbie says B. We've got another. Vivian says lead by example, B. Jan says all of the above, and Gracie's on B. So I think the B's have got it.
Okay, so the answer, model the way, according to Coos and Posner, I'm totally screwing that up. It's actually C, but it is important to lead by example. It's important to have a positive attitude, right? So, but technically, it's model the way. Okay. A leader leads by example, not by force. Do you remember what we said as far as what was force? What did force mean earlier? Do you remember the social power? It was the first one. What was the first social power item component we covered?
Oh, pick me, pick me, pick me.
Oh, okay, okay, go. Yeah.
Coercion.
Very good. Coercion.
I knew it was because I just remembered it was to do with metal. That's how I connected it in my mind.
Good job. There you get another glass of wine.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh. All right. So people ask me all the time, what's a maven? Right? It's an influencer. It's someone who influences behavior. So this is our style guide, which is, it's a mnemonic. I love mnemonics. So M stands for motivation. And we're going to cover this in a minute. So M stands for motivation. A stands for accountability. V stands for values. We talked about values. E stands for engagement. N is network. You know, who's in the social group and who's helping you, who's your support, right? And then S is social situation. So social power and situations. That's what Maven stand for. And I would encourage each of you to consider creating your own style guide, because we show up as individuals, and I would also encourage you to create it and share it with your teams, in your businesses, with your people that you lead, the people that you work with. Find out what they value and create an environment that allows you to influence and create shared leadership. So, how do you define your leadership style? M is, why do you want to lead or influence others in the first place? Do you know your why? Do you know what you desire? Why is it important for you to do it? You know, what we started the conversation with. Do you know what it is? And then A, accountability. How do you hold yourself accountable and others accountable? So Brene Brown uses the task model, TASC, which is T is task. A is, do they have the authority to be accountable? S is, I think, is support, and C is checklist. But it's in her Dare to Lead book, and I think if you Google Brene Brown, you'll find it. V is, have you identified your values and shared them with your team? Have you created team? Have you created team values? E, how do you create engagement? Do you know what that means? Do you care? Right? Are you using a model around that, or how do you get the team talking? And is anybody left out for any reason? And why? Why or why not? And who is in your network to support you as a leader? We all need help. It takes a village, right? It takes a lot of people. I got a lot of people on my team that help me every day because I don't always do what I need to do. And then S is S squared. Use your social powers, figure out what you're using, how to do that, how to use them, which ones you're using, how to use situational leadership. And I'm done, and I'm right on time. There we go. We're out. Boom. Done.
Michelle, you got me here thinking, but this is really not about me. There's a lot of questions we've had throughout the session, and we've got a few minutes now to take a few questions if you want clarity on anything that Michelle has shared in her presentation, or if something's come up for you and you just want to get some clarity, maybe it's one of the items here or something else. We have got time for a few questions. So drop the questions in the stage chat, because there's an event chat and a stage chat. Just drop them in the stage chat and we'll get to them. But whilst you tap typing away, I am loving this, Michelle. Like that structure that you just went through, for me, mind-blowing. It's like it's brought together a lot of things that I think as business owners we are aware of, but it's given it a different flavor and a different structure. And to me, sometimes it's about something brand new. Sometimes it's a new take or a new perspective that just has me flick a switch on things. Yeah, others agree. Jan says, Michelle, you rock. Michelle dropped the mic. Thank you, Michelle. I love your leadership insights. Like, we're getting a lot of Michelle love right now.
I love the love. I will absorb all that love. That's amazing.
We have got a question. Apologies. I'm doing my best with your name, darling. It's Novali Hella. Beautiful name.
Yeah,
what are some ways or examples you keep yourself accountable? It's a great question.
Yeah, that is a really good question. So my number one way is to have an accountability buddy. Love having accountability buddies so I will have an accountability buddy for, weight loss is a good example, right? Or if I'm trying to lose weight, then I might have someone checking in with me. How's your diet? Actually, my girlfriend does this. How's your diet this week? What did you eat today? I'm like, oh crap. And so I know she's going to ask me, and that way it creates instant accountability, right? Another way to create accountability is, we have trouble as leaders, as business owners, managing our time. So why not hold ourselves accountable by putting all this is good. Transactional work versus transformational work. Are we doing both? And are we blocking time on our calendars for transformational work? That's another level of accountability. I shared the task model is another way of accountability. That creates accountability for yourself and your team. There's also a RACI chart. So responsible, accountable, consulted, or informed. You can create that for you and your team. And then you're in the mix too. You are also part of that mix. So those are all really good ways to create accountability for yourself.
Fabulous. Can you just drop us a note and let us know if you've answered your question? Michelle, I feel like I want to be on the big screen again.
Oh, sure. Oh, sorry. Okay. So
it's fine. It's my ego needs more space.
Okay. Awesome. There you go. You got space now. Jazz hands.
We've got a question from Sharon. She says, what are some ways to continue engagement in our current remote workforce? That's an awesome question, because we're dispersed now.
It is. Okay, so I want to start with what engagement means first. Let's start with what that means. So there's an engagement pyramid, right? So there's the pyramid. And so the bottom is, do they understand what they're supposed to do, right? That's the first foundational item, okay? That's level 1 engagement. Level 2 engagement is, are they motivated to do whatever it is you're asking them to do, okay? Is there some passion around it? Are they curious, right? When we have put people in square pegs and round holes, they're not motivated to do it. They're like, I got to get a new job because I hate this job. I hate this work. This is awful. So that's level 2. Level 3 is, do they have the capability or the skill to do it, right? And so here's the thing. In order to have a truly engaged employee, teammate, you need all 3, people. You need all 3. If you don't have one, that's on you. That means you're not checking, you're not asking, you're not finding out what's going wrong, you're not getting one-on-ones done, right? So that's the first thing. Use the levels, find out if there's anything going sideways. And then as far as the remote workforce, I like to do a few things. I like to make work fun. Okay. So Gracie knows about this. So one of the interviews that Gracie and I did was with Snap Camera, which is absolutely ridiculous, but it's so much fun. And Snap Camera is a way to apply avatars and filters. I showed up for my interview with Gracie as a pretty princess because it's fun. And yeah, so it was pink hair, and she's like, oh, what is that, right? So how do you create engagement, right? Don't talk people to death, right? Engage them in the conversation. Make it fun, build trust, ask them how they're doing, ask them what's going on in their world, ask them how you are screwing up and how you could do better. and then they'll actually start paying attention to what you're saying. That's how you create engagement.
I especially love that last bit, because I think sometimes as leaders, we can forget that it's as important to ask for the criticism, like to actually actively request it. So let me know if that answers your question, Sharon. Jan says, I echo the prior chat message. Assign vacuuming to the person who loves vacuuming to maximize the ability to contribute.
Yes, exactly. Exactly.
Insert other mundane task where vacuuming appears.
Truly. I mean, my husband and I, he cooks and I clean. If it's the reverse, neither of us are happy. So why do that? That doesn't make any sense.
Yeah. I think we've got time for one more question, and Julie's already dropped one in.
All
How
right.
do you encourage service with a team? Is that how do you encourage service with a team?
How do you encourage service with the team? So service, help me understand what you mean by service, because that means different things to different people. I will, while she's typing that, I will interpret what I think service means. So I'm interpreting how do you encourage service with the team is how do you encourage teamwork with the team? How do you encourage shared leadership within the team? And I'll give you an example. So let's say, so we'll use the vacuuming example, all right? Because this is good, right? I don't know who's vacuuming at work, but it doesn't matter. So let's use the vacuuming example. If Jan likes to vacuum, right, and she's never vacuumed, then I'm going to have a dialogue about, does she understand how to vacuum? Okay. Is she motivated to vacuum, right? Does she know how to do it, right? Does she understand what she's supposed to do? Does she want to do it? And does she know how to do it? Okay. So that's the first step. And then maybe I'll start delegating the vacuuming to her because she's interested and I can help her along the way. We can work together and participate together in the exercise of vacuuming. That's creating service within the team. And you're sharing, you're coaching, you're working together. You know, if someone wants to learn a new skill and they're nervous, well, the only way you're going to know that they want to learn a new skill and they're nervous is if you ask them and talk to them, right? That's firstly. And then you can help encourage them and it may not, maybe you're not the best vacuum person, right? Maybe there's somebody else that's better at vacuuming, and then they can help that person learn to vacuum. Love the vacuum example.
We got a little bit of clarity. Julie says service, giving back to the community.
Okay. So giving back to the community, I would say, Julie, for the encouraging, so giving back to the community, I want to look at that. How do you encourage giving back to community with a team? I think my number one thing there would be understanding their why. Why would they give back to the team? Why do they care about giving back to the team? Are they motivated to do it? Right. And so you can start having conversation around that and what that looks like. What does giving back mean to them? How could they give back to the community? And what does that look like? Because it means different things to different people.